introduce a hot topic
Hot topic.
that's
Please.
on my mind?
Ready.
Do you say that you're ironing or do you say that you're pressing?
It depends. It
Tell
really
me
depends
more.
on what I'm doing. If I am doing a big swath of fabric, I'm ironing. If I'm doing seams, I'm pressing. And it's two entirely different motions. I'm ironing and then I press my seams. How is that for
Lori,
critics?
point to Lori. She's over here.
Lori?
I have strong opinions about this.
Oh, well, then speak up.
No, I want everyone to go first. I don't want to influence. This is like, the two spaces situation, the hill I'll die on.
Lori?
I always say I'm ironing, but like you said, it's a different motion. If I'm doing one of big shirts, I'm ironing. If I'm doing yardage, I'm ironing. If I'm pressing a block or pressing a quilt top, I'm pressing.
I ironed on my pressing station. So I have an acknowledgement that there are two terms, but it's kind of like I just say I'm ironing for everything, even though I have a pressing station.
You have a nice one.
It might be a little too tall for my shorter friends.
Yes, and your short friend ordered the same height as yours.
Well, Tracy, what
Tracy?
about
I too say I'm ironing a lot, even though I often press.
Got it. Michelle?
so here's my question, because the iron itself, it's a noun, right? So
Mhm.
it's the object that you use to press your fabric. So I'm just curious how that became ironing. Like, are they really separate words? I mean, I could look it up on this tiny computer, but I'm curious to, just discuss this because
Because you would iron and press.
What?
so
Wait,
I use my iron to press. So
but
I'm
wait, wait,
always
wait, wait,
pressing.
wait, wait.
Okay.
I'm out. Isn't iron both a noun and a verb?
Is
I don't
it?
think I don't think it is just one. I think it's one of those words that's both.
So
A
has it
noun.
always been? I'm
Well,
curious, I'm like
have
honestly
you
curious about this.
have you found vintage tea towels that for the day of the week? And Thursday is ironing day.
And so that would go back to pre-1930s. So ironing has been a verb for a long time then.
Hmm.
So I'm curious in this discussion that those of you that are actually defining the difference between ironing and pressing,
Mhm.
because I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. I definitely always use my iron to press. Or if I'm writing instructions for a pattern, I use the word press. I don't use the word iron.
Mhm.
And I'm curious what you guys do.
I write press.
Hmm.
You write press?
Same.
Press
Because
seems
usually
to the
that's what you're
side,
trained
or
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, press seams open, press seams to one
press
side,
seems to the
dark.
one side. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even just press.
Mhm.
This makes me feel so good to have this conversation. You have no idea. Like these things stay bottled up in me. I have no one to talk to about
I
it.
think with words like this, I'm just happy I get one of them out of my mouth properly, right context. Whether it's ironing or pressing, if I can remember one of those words when I'm speaking about it, I'm content. Does anybody else have that problem where you open
Yeah.
your mouth and just the nothing or the wrong word entirely flies out?
It, it is happening more and more frequently, annoyingly. Um, it- but I think you bring it, you bring a bigger point though. Sometimes it's what we remember or what we've been taught, and then what's the etymology of the words, right? Where did they come from and how did they develop over time into what we use? But also I was flipping through Instagram the other day, and one of the fabric companies had do you know what these things mean? And I'm sitting there going, I've been writing a dictionary on my blog for years, first of all. And secondly, what I really loved about it is here's the lingo that we all use, like S.E.X, stash enhancing experience, PhD,
Is
project.
that what that meant? I was like, what is sex? I don't even know.
We'll
And-
talk later, Tracy.
From my head to Debbie's mouth. That was just
and it was it's not even showing.
No. It's
we'll show it.
Mona
Drop
Lisa.
It was Mona Lisa.
Right.
Lisa Alexander. And okay, so then what's LAQ?
Long arm quilter.
Of course. All right, then what's a fart?
Oh, that's a new one.
We don't want to discuss that here.
Is that I would guess fabric acquisition retail therapy.
Oh,
You guys are so smart.
How would you
I was
guess
sitting here
that?
going like it was
That
too
would be a
early
guess.
for that.
I haven't heard it.
That sounds
used that way,
accurate.
but
That sounds accurate.
but that's a great way of teaching beginners, like people who are coming into the quilting world, what our lingo is. And I was actually, for some odd reason, I was thinking about our quilting lingo the other day and how do we bring beginners into the language without making them feel stupid? Because there were periods of time where like I had no idea what other quilters in the room were talking about. It's a whole, like, quilting has a whole language unto itself, apart from almost apart from sewing as an overall umbrella thing. Quilting has its own language, its own way of expressing. And even in our language, we have dialects like art quilting and traditional and modern, and they mean different things, and they can morph over time, because once upon a time you quilted that on your machine. Oh, shock, horror. And now, like, yeah,
You
right.
ruined your quilt if you didn't hand quilt it.
Yep.
Were you even quilting?
Right. And so, like, how has our like in the last 30 years of being a quilter, the language has changed.
Really, because I didn't know what sex was. But Lori would be happy to know that pigs was on the list.
It is cool.
Is pints on the list?
Is what?
Pints. Projects in nice totes.
No pints.
Which
What's
is just a
pints?
step up. It's a little bougie.
It's a little
Not a
bougie.
project in a grocery sack. It's in a nice tote.
I don't know what pigs is.
Projects in grocery sacks.
Oh, well, I was today's years old. First learned that.
Well, they must not be in New York. We don't have grocery sacks.
Don't have them in Denver anymore either.
Or Portland.
Come to Texas.
I was going to say, in Nebraska, I can get plastic grocery sacks everywhere I go.
And I can get paper if I want it.
I was in North Carolina last week, and they have lots of bags, and they don't even ask you if you want them.
They just presume.
They just presume that you're gonna get plastic grocery sacks.
I took my mom grocery shopping when I was in Pennsylvania with her, and I was shocked that not everyone got out of the car, walked 3 car spaces through the parking lot, turned around, walked back to the car,
Back.
get the grocery bag that you forgot, and then walk into the store. And everyone was just all willy-nilly walking into the store. Weird.
Just crazy.
That is weird.
All right, I need help. I just noticed another word on the list. Squishy.
Oh,
Ooh, I love squishies. Oh, go ahead, Teri.
no, go ahead. I just like doing this.
Squishies. It's soft mailings. You get something in the mail. It's a quilt top or a piece of
Like-
fabric. It's squishies.
Oh, so it refers to any quilt related item in the mail that's
Fabric.
I'm not I've known it in context of a quilt top. As a long arm quilter, when people mailed me quilts, I'd get a squishy in the mail.
Mm.
squishy. All
And,
right.
and participating in a few, like 100 years ago, participating in a few swaps. That's what we would call fabric in a mailer is a squishy.
All right.
I'm happy. I'm so happy we could help you.
Thank you. There's so many on
Expand.
this list that I don't know. I just feel like I'm in the dark.
Well, Michelle seems like she's learning things tonight too. So
I am learning things. I think in the garment world, I think one of my favorite ones that happened not that long ago. There's it's sort of a crossover term. It's called stitch in the ditch. And we do that when we're quilting, but it's something you do in garment sewing also. And I was reading through pattern, and it's one of my most favorite things to make. I've made it over and over. And the instruction for stitch in the ditch said, um, you know, use a crack stitch on the waistband. And I giggled because it's crack stitch. Like, what's a crack stitch? I honestly didn't know what it was. I thought it was a special stitch. And I probably have as many old sewing books as you all have irons. So I probably have like 30, old like sewing instruction books. And it is what stitch in the ditch was called pretty consistently.
Really?
Crack stitching.
Wow.
We need
You
to
want
bring
to
it
Google,
back.
it's a good one. So
Debbie's right. We need to bring that back.
I don't know if
I like
if it actually crosses over into the quilting world, like if we're gonna, crack
Oh,
stitch in all of our blogs.
One of the store managers that I worked with, she goes, Teri, quilting is drug culture.
Really?
And Lori will remember that back in the day, like at least when I started at Quiltmaker, we were not allowed to use the word stash. And I used to say it all the time in the office just to annoy the person who imposed that rule.
Oh, because like it might imply drug. See, I'm just catching on, and I didn't even get the like crack stitch as like a drug reference.
You were just thinking of butts.
Square. Yeah, I was thinking of butts. Mhm. Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
thinking,
I
I'm so New
honored on
York, I'm
that.
thinking crack.
I was just thinking butts. Butts and drugs. Well, aren't we a group?
For who tonight?
That's for sure. So I want to continue this conversation so badly. Tracy, were there any other words that you needed helping define?
Yes, I did. Okay, let's see. All right. What's an SnW? And it's capital S, small n, capital W.
Stack and whack.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
You are good at this game, Debbie.
No,
But I can't often remember the word for spoon. I don't know why these are coming out of my mouth so easily. Honey, can you get me a
Stack and whack.
yeah, stack and whack.
All right, I've got another one.
Okay.
Stable.
Stash beyond all life expectancy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but there's an A in there.
Stash acquired
Oh,
Oh, stash acquired.
beyond all life expectancy.
All right, then I think I've got one more. There might be more, but R.
Railroad?
That's what I thought when I saw it too. I was like,
Round
really?
robin?
There we go.
Round robin. See, I just needed people.
Yeah, Yeah, Tracy, you need people. Oh, wait, aren't we your people?
Yeah, you are my people.
My husband, we have our own language in quilting, and I love that. I was teaching in Australia, and my husband insisted that I need a helper because he wanted a trip to Australia. So I made him help me. And as I was setting up a machine quilting room, I'm like, get me the thread, get me the whatever, as I was setting it up. And I was like, hand me a sandwich. And then he starts rummaging through my purse. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, well, you have our Australian money. And I'm like, what? He's like, I'm getting you lunch. I'm like, I want that piece of fabric over there, that fabric sandwich, which is batting in between front and back to practice machine quilting on. He was like, oh, and he walked me to work every morning because I made him. And he stood around a little bit. He said, I don't know what you started out with today, but you said something, and everyone went, ooh. So we do have our own little in jokes, or that would be as crazy as using a 5/8 of an inch seam on a quilt. Things non-quilters would not understand.
Right.
But I like that brings us together.
We have lost Teri.
Sorry, I'm just highly amused tonight, apparently. Easily.
It was my turn last time. Now it's your turn.
Hey, we'll take
Next
turns
week
being
we go
easily
off.
amused.
Yeah, that's true.
So who does word of the year? Tracy, you're the odd woman out. This is new territory for you. Are you going to be okay?
Where's Tracy?
He's
Come back.
out of the
He
picture.
decided to go away.
Come back! I'm the only one.
It's okay.
Some years I don't feel it, but this year I do.
Mm-hmm. What's yours?
Mine is now.
Mm. Is there a story behind that?
Yes.
Good. Glad to hear it. Michelle?
So there was a really beautiful word of the year screen capture that I found on Instagram, and I sent it to all of you this morning, yesterday, I can't remember.
Yesterday.
Probably at some crazy 2 a.m. I was awake. Ginger beer did it. And I was like, I want to make one of those. How do I make one of those so I could put my own words in? So I did. I made one today, and it was really fun to make. Because, and the reason I did that is the word that I got now is going to be stuck in my head for like the rest of the year. And I really am struggling with the word. And so like, well, if I make one that just has words that like I'd be happy with any of them. So control freak. Maybe that would inspire
Michelle,
me to
I
pick a
have good
word
news.
of the year.
There's only a few days left of the year for it to be stuck in
No.
your head.
Yeah,
No,
so you
it's
could
gonna be
use it
stuck
for
in my
this
head.
year.
Which I think is a good word to have then, right?
What is
Because
it?
if it's not stuck in my head, it means that I don't exactly know how it's gonna like be part of my year. And so I really like that. At first I was like, why is that my word? I don't like that word. I don't want that word. And it really brought up some emotions for me.
Is that the word that
Clearly
you and I
still.
talked about?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So the word was retreat, and
That word.
I felt all kinds of feelings about it. So I might stick with that word because I think it's worth thinking a lot about. It's not one I would have picked for myself, and it's one that I think I can check in throughout the year. So and
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm gonna go
I'm
with that.
guessing you thought of it as like pull back and not like what Debbie just did with her friends.
Absolutely, because and the reason why I didn't think of it, well, I did think of it as retreat, like, oh, then I kind of got grumpy and I'm like, well, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to get to go on one. So this word is terrible. It's just making me feel bad. It's a war word. I don't like, so on and on and on. But I'm gonna go with that word. I think it's interesting, and
But what did I say to you about that
no,
word?
Can someone else talk now?
No, no, I'm bringing this up for a reason because when you shared that word, I was like, oh my gosh, that is just such a great word. And like you were still like very resistant to it even after I said whatever I did about the word retreat, which I think it's a great word because I think sometimes we do need to pull back and kind of take a look at what's going on around us. But it's also a place of rest. It's a place of renewal. It's a place of being regenerated. It's a place where we can try new things, do new things. It's a place where, like, in one regard, this space for me is a retreat because I can talk quilting with people that I just love and adore. And so it's really refreshing and renewing for me. So I would love to see you stay with the word for all of 2024 and see what happens with it. But if you choose to go in another direction, I fully support that too. So like my support matters, but
it matters.
Lori.
So in the same generator that Michelle used, my word that came up was consistency. And I was like Michelle, I was sort of like, yeah, I'm going to keep thinking. But I also looked up consistency and kept looking up consistency. And one that I found today said that consistency is different than perfection. Oh, see, so now that starts applying to me because I have some real perfectionistic tendencies that get in the way sometimes because it's not perfect. So I'll have to work on something else until I can figure out a way to make it perfect. And it kills my creativity sometimes. So if I work on being consistent as opposed to being perfect, consistency would keep working on that thing that's kind of going out there in left field where it doesn't belong.
I love that for you so much. And I mean that in the somebody who has struggled with perfectionism at different points, that by being consistent rather than going for perfect, you actually have an achievable goal.
Right. And it opens up things like what I showed you to begin with, where Audrey messed up my quilt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so perfectionism would have torn that part of the quilt apart and taken out the torn fabric.
Mm-hmm.
I have a cute little embroidered flower that'll cover it up. That's not perfect, but I get to keep going, and it's actually kind of fun.
Well, and prospectively speaking, from somebody who loves to look at quilts as much as make them, I think it adds interest and character.
Yeah, you're right.
See, we got all the nods. So my word for 2024 is play, which comes from it felt like it came out of left field, but out of an odd place. And yet it is something that I think has been coming for the last couple of years. Debbie's going, yes, Teri, I've been telling you to do this. On a recent retreat, and that's about all I can say about it. At a recent retreat, somebody approached me and says, did you perhaps study theater? And I was like, no, why? And I got an answer that, I'm good at public speaking and I'm kind of entertaining. And so, so in this person's mind, I had studied theater, and I kind of go, no, I am just embracing my inner 5-year-old, and there's there's actually something with it. I remember as a 5 or 6 year old, um, and I've shared the story publicly, like going to the neighborhood swings and singing Karen Carpenter tunes, and sometimes making up my own lyrics. And in some regard, I've always been a little adventuresome in that, um, at 8 years old, I guess, whatever you are in second grade, I got a book out of the library and made a loaf of bread and carried the ginormous Tupperware bowl around the whole neighborhood with me on this warm spring day so that, I could watch my dough rising and make sure I punched it down at all the right times and whatever. And so like there's a playful creative side that is returning in a way at 55 that I'm really enjoying. So
My story of my now word actually came into play this week. As I was going through trying to do some tidying in my sewing room, and I said, will I finish this quilt? Is it something I'd be willing to work on now or next? Like now, immediately now. And if the answer was no, that quilt isn't going to get made. The fabric got put into the scraps that get made into those fun little blocks that I do. I recycled the pattern, and that was that. So, the now, it didn't start out as a sewing thing. It started out as, well, if you're procrastinating, the best time to do it is now. Do it now. Or if you're dwelling on the past or worried about the future, we're going to deal with now. But it actually helped. Is that something I would do now or next? Is this something I'm willing to work on now? Or is this I can't even imagine when I'd work on it. Well, I don't need to keep it if I'm not going to work on it.
that's true.
Now.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to write it down because I need that as I prepare for my next adventure.
Maybe that could be your word, adventure.
I feel like I've had adventure as my word.
See, I've had
Maybe
play.
You've had
good
play?
word.
I looked over there when Teri said it because I used to have a quilt that said play over there when that was the word of the year. And so I don't know where that quilt is, but I'm thinking about it. I'm going to look for it.
Tracy, have you ever done word of the year?
I have. And the last time I had a word of the year, it was a particularly bad year. And I chose 2 words, ridiculously awesome. And it was the absolute opposite of ridiculously awesome. And I think and part of the year like had gone through and like I had forgotten that I had chosen a word. So it wasn't like, front of mind for sure after a little bit. And the beginning of the year certainly seemed like it was going to be ridiculously awesome. And then it's just like whoosh, cliff. And so I just haven't done it again. And I also like I don't do resolutions either. I just don't find them to be helpful to me currently, if that makes sense. And so, yeah. And part of me honestly feels like I probably would do it or have more success if I was doing it in the spring instead of like the dead of winter. I feel like New Year's is like a weird night anyway. Like it's just weird. It's the middle of winter.
My favorite holiday.
Is it? I love that.
And mine always comes at the middle end of November, because the liturgical year for us starts at the beginning of December. And I'd done that for like the last 8 or 9 years. That's where the word comes, and then I post it. I don't wait. And I kind of went, it was like 4 days ago, I went, oh, that's what I do. So you can choose your word of the year, your focus word, or your whatever at any point. You can do any 12-month period. Like, you are not locked into January 1st.
Okay, I will keep that in mind.
Good, because you're awesome sauce. All y'all. So why don't we wrap this discussion up? Any quick thoughts?
Do you want to do an either or question like you did last time? That was fun.
Oh, that was fun.
You lead.
Um, hmm. Okay. Now or next? Oh, no,
Ooh.
wait. I got a different idea.
Go. That
Because no, because last time you had it like drink themed, right?
did I?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, so I got
I'm
one.
hilarious.
I know. Cookies or pie?
Mm.
Hmm.
What if you do
Easy.
cookies, cake, or pie?
Okay, do that. So
Still
this is all
easy.
edited, right?
I'm not
All right,
It's
so
it's still easy. Cookies.
Cake.
Because there are so many different kinds.
I can tell you for sure. Debbie just said cake. I can tell you it's cake. And
Battle
don't get in her
Mary
way.
has battle scars.
Yes.
And
Been
unlike
there for that.
unlike Lori, with there are many kinds of cookies, there's one kind of cake. One. It is chocolate cake in layers with frosting in between.
And it's
Oh,
worth fighting for.
yeah,
I've
it's
seen
Yes.
pictures.
Yes, it is.
And I know what cookie it is absolutely not for Debbie.
the untrustworthy
No
one.
raisin.
Mhm. That's why I have trust issues.
wait, the last time this worked because you gave very specific things, maybe.
Oh no,
Like you
this is
said.
working.
This is working.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Tracy?
Cookies. Cookies. That's a hard one for me. Like, because my answer is generally ice cream. See, and I think I did this last time too. My answer is ice cream, but cookies is second. And if I had to pick a favorite cookie, fortune cookie.
I can see that for you.
I also like Madeleines. Does that count as a cookie?
Yes.
Kind of cake as well.
And if you had kept this as cookies or pie, my answer would still be cake.
See, Michelle, it's totally working.
Okay.
So
I
for me, it's yes. Yes.
I would say I don't know what I burned my fingers more on, making fortune cookies or pressing prairie points. Probably equally. But this last weekend I made some coconut macaroons in a new way. I made it with a meringue and I'm obsessed. It's like,
Wow.
oh, they're just like fluffy and light, and I just
Party at
eat them
Michelle's house.
breakfast and lunch and dinner for every meal. Like a coconut macaroon is a meal. So good.
They are a
Yeah,
meal.
cookies.
Yeah.
What?
I have a
Yeah.
recipe for an eggless macaroon that was quite popular when I was vegetarian with like all my vegetarian friends. And I used to get asked to make them all the time, and it's like pretty easy. I'm intrigued by meringue.
This is meringue.
Did you use your fancy mixer?
I have a fancy mixer that I used. And then to just like, because I'm not sure that's a sentence, is now
It
I
was.
dipped them in chocolate and then I like drizzled chocolate on them. That was, and then brought them to the neighbors whose kids are, 3 and 1.5 because, I should have just made sugar cookies, but I mean, my other word for the year actually is hone. So I'm honing my skills. I'm honing my baking skills. Because I can move my arm again. So hopefully I'll be back making bread. So
Nice.
So I just got one of those fancy new mixers, and I think that it'd be perfect if I could try your recipe out in my fancy new mixer.
we'll add it in the show notes.
All right.
And what color is your fancy new mixer?
It's red, of course.
Of course.
Oh, okay. I'm officially jealous. Did I tell you guys before we sign off on this episode? Did I tell you guys what happened to my mixer? It was awful. It was awful, you guys. It was terrible.
What happened, Teri?
It was terrible, I tell you. It was terrible. I was mixing. You can tell I was mixing. I was mixing with my 25-year-old hand mixer. Now, it's 25. It's seen a few pounds of butter in its day. And I love this mixer. I used it for so many things. So I'm trying to get my butter going, get it creaming with the sugar. You do the butter first for a little while, and then you start creaming the sugar. And as I'm starting to cream the butter, one of the beaters fell apart.
Moment of silence.
So I'm thinking I'm now going to have to get a new mixer. And the ones that I was looking at are red and teal. One day I will have one of them. I promise. My husband is a very good researcher. He and Debbie are on par in terms of the research abilities. They're just mad good. And so
Did he find parts for a 25-year-old mixer?
he found new beaters for my 25-year-old mixer.
Yay, sweetie.
So
Darn.
instead of spending $150, which is what I wanted to spend on a new hand mixer with more than 3 speeds, I got $25 beaters.
And most of that was postage.
No, there was no postage. So Tracy, you want to wrap this up? You're going.
I have a red mixer. All my flavors are red. My toaster's red. My mixer's red. My Cuisinart is red. I had an ice cream maker that was red.
Do you
I
like red?
collected them. I collected them for like years. All right. This has been an episode of Quilters Rule the World. This is episode 2. Peace out, people.